Thank you.
Jacinda Ardern.
Oh, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I will be taking a call on this bill, Mr. Speaker, on the New Zealand Business Number Bill. And I think it is important when discussing a bill like this that we keep at the top of our minds the context in which business is operating. And it is with some, I use some irony, that we are debating this bill, which is meant to be about improving the ease of doing business and improving outcomes for business, when we are so close to a budget which was trumpeted by the government as the budget that would return us to surplus, and that therefore would demonstrate to the nation that the economy is in good heart, that the books have been balanced, and that all is well in Netherland. But Mr. Speaker, that is not going to be what this budget delivers. We're now hearing from a Minister of Finance, the one in which the business is meant to hold great faith in the Minister of Finance. That is the same minister who stood up in this House today and likened balancing a budget to weight loss, which I found extraordinary. So apparently if you set a goal of losing 10 kgs but you only reach 9 kgs, that's the same as a budget surplus not being reached. Well, you can't be a little bit pregnant, Mr. Speaker, and the difference for business is that if they aren't able to balance, if a business isn't able to balance their books, then it's not just good enough that they had a go at it. So I do think it's important that the context be considered, because small business in the cabinet paper, Melissa Lee, who were asked about what they thought of the business number, which the government is now passing in this debate, said actually, and this is relevant, when asked about the business number, small business said it wasn't the biggest issue for them. And so that is absolutely relevant. What is relevant to them is whether or not we do have a well-performing economy that means that their business is within that context doing well. That is what they want their government to focus on. So that is an important measure. It absolutely is. And Minister Foss knows, because his officials were the ones that prepared that document and said when we consulted with small business, they weren't convinced. They weren't convinced of the benefits it would bring for them. Now, I can see why they would say that, Mr. Speaker, because when you come to Part 1 of the New Zealand Business Number Bill, it sets out in its preliminary provisions the purpose, or the main purposes of the Act, which include enable business in New Zealand to interact more easily with government, reduce the cost of business transactions in New Zealand, and establish and maintain a New Zealand Business Number Register. There is very little detail on how that will explicitly deliver some of the cost savings that the government has been trumpeting since year dot. Very little detail on that whatsoever. And yet if you directly compare that with some of the really tangible things that are being put forward by members of the business community or the Institute of Chartered Accountants, they have said, look, if you want to look for things that will enable business to interact more easily with government, that will save them time, that will save them money, adopt some of the proposal that the New Zealand Institute of Chartered Accountants put up before the election. They included things like no more than 1 hour, no more than one form, making it really simple to file for tax purposes of the government. They've set out some of those ideas in a really simple way for the government that hasn't been picked up. So if there are things that the New Zealand business number is going to deliver that we can tangibly say will deliver X amount of time savings, I'm pretty sure small business would like to hear about that, but that is not explicitly contained here. And Mr. Speaker, there are probably already areas where we could be sharing information without having just that one number. I know Xero, for instance, have been putting a case to government over things like allowing Xero to be used as a way of channeling all the information that Statistics New Zealand wants directly from Xero, a platform that so many small businesses are using, directly into government. That would be a massive time saving. Allowing Xero and things like Mind Your Own Business, for instance, to speak directly to IRD. That would make a massive difference to those small businesses. So look, yes, we're willing to explore this. We're willing to send it to Select Committee because you're trumpeting a big game here. Let's see what it's going to deliver. But don't do it at the expense of some really practical ideas that the government could be delivering on now, or at the expense of the bigger picture, which ultimately is an economy that's delivering for our businesses.